Joining us first is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, along with The Hill's John Solomon and his breaking news today, and also Sarah Carter as well, who has breaking news. John, let's start with Bruce Orr told everybody in the FBI that mattered in August of 2016 about the Steele dossier, about it was Hillary Clinton, bought and paid for, unverified, uncorroborated, and not to be trusted. Now, by October, they never verified it in any way, and even in January, Comey said it was salacious and unverified. So my question is, if they knew it and then they used it as the bulk of information to obtain the FISA warrant, McCabe said no dossier, no warrant, that means they knowingly, purposefully lied and committed a fraud on the court, and they knew it from day one. They knew it before they ever applied.
Listen, Sean, if the new Attorney General, Bill Barr, if the existing Attorney General, Matt Whitaker, if the Justice Department Inspector General, if Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham wants to investigate whether there was willful and knowing misleading of the FISA court, all they have to do is call Bruce Orr, because Bruce Orr makes it adamantly clear. He told the FBI, I had concerns about bias. This is connected to the Clinton campaign. Its reliability is suspect. You need to do your own homework before you use it. And yet they go ahead and rush it through the FISA process. We've been talking about this and we've been putting these pieces together, but this is probably the single most damning piece of evidence. It comes from the #4 Justice Department official, the person that first really walks it in a substantial way to the FBI, and he puts a word of caution on it, and those words of caution are blown past as we submit a FISA with information that was not yet corroborated.
And Sarah, you also have new information tonight.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely stunning, the revelations that Bruce Orr had in his testimony, Sean. One of the things that I think is stunning is that in the summer of 2016, I mean, he had briefed Andrew Weissman. I mean, this is really important. He had not only briefed Andrew Weissman, but Bruce Schwartz, who then headed the International Division of the Criminal Fraud Task Force, and as well as another lady by the name of Miss Ahmed. Now, we know that Weissman and Miss Ahmed are both, serving right now with Robert Mueller. They have they're senior officials on the special counsel investigation, and they were told by Bruce Orr that he was getting information from Christopher Steele. And apparently they were briefed on all of this information, and then they went on to serve on Mueller's team. And just as John has reported, and just as I've reported as well, they were very well aware in the FBI what was going on and that the Clinton campaign was funding this. And they were very well aware that there was bias with Fusion GPS, and that bias existed with Christopher Steele because Bruce Orr warned them. And then they go and they've been very quiet. Remember, the FBI has been very tentative about saying when they found out, because we know, based on sources that both John and I have, that in that FISA document, which the president should declassify, and all those other documents, all of this will be revealed, that they never warned the secret court, that they were well aware that this was politicized and that they had weaponized the intelligence community to go after them.
Let me now go to the legal side and turn to Greg Jarrett on this, because that would mean they were all warned. They all knew, but they did it anyway. They purposely committed a fraud on the court. Now, would that mean everybody who signed that document, including James Comey, including Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, who else do we know signed it?
Well, Dana Bluante signed it. So you've got 5 people who signed it. And James Baker, I've been able to confirm today his testimony. He prepared that document, he said, because he was the FISA expert. Here's the Department of Justice regulations they violated. Quote, only documented and verified information may be used in support of an application to the FISA court. They not only broke their own rules, they committed 6 different felony violations as well. I've been able to confirm today parts of the testimony of Bruce Orr. What jumps out at me is this exchange with Congress behind closed doors. Or on one of the occasions when I talked to the FBI, they said, oh, next time you talk with Christopher Steele, can you ask him, is he willing to meet with us? And I conveyed that back to Chris. Question, after he had been terminated? or correct. And it's worse. After James Comey was fired, a panicked FBI gets in touch with Orr yet again and says, you've got to get us back with Christopher Steele. Why? Because they were desperate to verify the dossier they had used and hadn't verified.
But here's a bigger problem, because with Andrew Weissman himself being briefed, being the lead guy, pit bull of Robert Mueller,
he's conflicted.
This now taints the whole investigation. If they were looking for Russia collusion, they knew where to go, to Hillary. But here's the point. That means if he knew the entire time, that Mueller knew the entire time, that dossier was bought and paid for by Hillary using Russian lies to influence the 2016 election, that means the entire thing is topsy-turvy and twisted.
Absolutely. And in fact, Robert Mueller should have taken notice of all of this. He's aware of it all. And he should have said, I'm going to investigate the FBI now.
Is this go to jail stuff?
Oh, it absolutely should.
All the people that were warned. He did it anyway. When you lie to a court like this.
When you lie to a court, conceal evidence, it's a fraud on the court.
John, let me go back to you. The Weissman piece is very important as well, because if they were all warned way in advance and they still never vetted it, they still never corroborated it, because it was never something they could corroborate, but they weaponized that paid-for Russian dossier to go after the president, ironically, over a Russia issue when they had it in their hands.
Listen, we know from Bruce Orr's own notes that the main source that Christopher Steele was using was a former Russian intelligence service agent. We know at the time he was employed by Fusion GPS and Glenn Simpson, who was also working for a Russian company, Prevazon, a Russian state-controlled company. Those two things should have been major red flags to the FBI, and the possibility exists that the Russians were using Glenn Simpson and Steele to put compromise or false information back into the system because they knew of their Democratic contacts. That's what's wrong with this whole process. Those things weren't looked at before they were submitted to the court.
And Sarah, if the new Attorney General does his job, James Comey and everybody, all of these people that knew are now... They should be getting a lawyer, and they should be basically prepared to be charged.
Yeah, this evidence is insurmountable evidence, Sean. And there's something else that was in that testimony, and people should be aware that Bruce Orr warned the FBI that this information was not vetted. So the FBI already knew that the information they were getting was salacious and unvetted, and they went ahead with it anyways. That's enough. One
last thing, because I do remember we had the evidence. We had the notes of Bruce Orr with Christopher Steele, and Christopher Steele desperately asking, did you get it to the special counsel? So Christopher Steele was feeding information to Robert Mueller, and we now know Weissman knew that this whole thing was questionable from the beginning, and they never touched it. Wow. Wow. A lot of people have a lot to worry about.